The space station hung in orbit like a massive jewel against the darkness. Jake Morrison pressed his face closer to the window of the transport ship, watching as they approached. He had seen many stations in his 5 years with Earth's space fleet, but nothing compared to this. The Caltharian diplomatic station was built from some kind of crystal that caught the light from 3 nearby suns and scattered it in all directions. "First time seeing their architecture?" a voice asked beside him. Jake turned to see Emma Hayes, the cultural expert assigned to their mission. She was younger than he expected, maybe 30 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform was crisp and perfect, but her eyes showed she hadn't slept much. "Yeah," Jake admitted. "I've read the reports, but seeing it in person is different." "Everything about the Caltharians is different," Emma said. She held a tablet in her hands, scrolling through pages of text. "I've been studying their culture for 3 years, and I still feel like I barely understand them." The transport ship shuddered as it locked into the docking port. Jake grabbed his bag and followed the rest of the crew toward the airlock. There were 12 humans in their group, led by Ambassador Helen Carter. She was a tall woman in her 60s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Remember your training," the ambassador said as they lined up. "The Caltharians value precision and respect. Follow their protocols exactly. This ceremony will decide if Earth gets a seat on the Galactic Council or if we stay isolated for another generation." Jake felt the weight of those words. Earth had been trying to join the galactic community for 40 years. Every time they got close, something went wrong. A misunderstood custom, an accidental insult, a cultural mistake that set them back years. This was their best chance. Maybe their last chance. The airlock opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Cool air rushed in, carrying a scent like rain on stone. Jake stepped through and stopped, his breath catching in his throat. The Caltharians were waiting for them in a vast chamber. They stood in perfect rows, 30 of them, each one at least 7 feet tall. Their bodies were made of crystal, clear and faceted like diamonds, with light moving inside them like colored water. When they shifted, rainbow patterns danced across the polished floor. "Welcome, humans of Earth," one of them said. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, translated by the devices in their ears. "I am High Magistrate Velthon. You honor us with your presence." Ambassador Carter stepped forward and bowed exactly as the protocol demanded, hands together, head lowered for 3 seconds. "We are honored to be here, High Magistrate. Earth sends its gratitude for this opportunity." Velthon moved closer, and Jake could see his face, if it could be called that. Features were carved into the crystal, shifting and changing as he spoke. "Before we begin the integration ceremony, there is a requirement. All guests must complete the rite of clarity. This has been our tradition for 3,000 years. No exceptions have been made." Jake saw Emma stiffen beside him. Her fingers tightened on the tablet. "The rite of clarity," Ambassador Carter said carefully. "Yes, we studied this custom. Could you explain it for my crew, so they understand fully?" "Of course." Velthon gestured with what passed for hands among his people, long crystalline extensions that caught the light. "The rite demands that all visitors remove artificial coverings before entering our sacred spaces. You must stand as you were created, without barriers between yourself and others. This shows honesty. This shows you have nothing to hide." The chamber fell silent. Jake felt his stomach drop. He knew what that meant. They wanted the humans to undress, completely, in front of the entire Caltharian government and whoever else would be at the ceremony. "High Magistrate," Emma said, stepping forward before the ambassador could speak. Her voice was steady, professional. "We understand that the Caltharians do not have the same relationship with bodies that humans do. For your people, the physical form is simply a vessel, and covering it implies deception." "Correct," Velthon said. His internal light pulsed with approval. "However," Emma continued, "human culture developed differently. For us, the body is considered private. Exposing it publicly causes psychological distress. Some of our crew have religious beliefs that forbid public nudity. Others have experienced trauma that makes them vulnerable. We respect your tradition, but we must also respect our own nature. Velthon's light dimmed slightly, like a cloud passing over the sun. The other Keltharians shifted, their crystalline forms clicking softly against each other. Are you refusing the right of clarity? Velthon asked. His voice carried no emotion, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. We are asking if there can be an accommodation, Emma said. A way to honor the spirit of your law while recognizing our biological and cultural differences. Jake admired her courage. She stood there, barely 5.5 feet tall, facing beings that could crush Earth's dreams with a single word. But she didn't back down. The law is absolute, Velthon said. Each word fell like a stone. Every species that has joined the Council has completed the rite. The Vaxorians, who breathe methane, the Saurians, who live in water, the Krenth, who communicate through scent. All of them stood before us as they were made, without artificial barriers. Why should humans be different? Because we are different, Captain Daniel Brooks said, moving to stand beside Emma. He was a solid man, with gray hair, and a face marked by years in space. Every species is different. That's the point of the Council, isn't it? To bring together different perspectives, different ways of thinking. If we all had to be the same to join, what would be the purpose? Velthon turned his attention to the captain. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke, and his words carried finality. You have 4 hours to make your decision. Either your delegation completes the rite of clarity, or you return to Earth and do not return for a century. These are your only options. He turned away, and the other Keltharians followed. Their footsteps made musical sounds on the floor, a rhythm that felt almost mocking. Within moments, the chamber was empty, except for the human delegation. Well, Ambassador Carter said quietly, that could have gone better. Jake looked at Emma. She was staring at her tablet, but he could see she wasn't reading it. Her hands trembled slightly, and her jaw was tight. This isn't your fault, he said quietly. Emma looked up at him, surprised. They had barely spoken before today, different departments on the same ship. I assured everyone this mission would work. I said I had accounted for every cultural barrier. You can't account for everything, Jake said. Nobody could. Tell that to Earth when we go home in failure. Emma's voice cracked slightly. She looked away quickly, blinking hard. The ambassador clapped her hands together, drawing everyone's attention. Back to quarters, all of you. We need to discuss our options. Move quickly. We don't have much time. As they walked through the crystal corridors of the station, Jake stayed close to Emma. He didn't know why. Maybe because she looked like she might break. Maybe because someone needed to stand beside her while the weight of the world pressed down. Or maybe because he recognized something in her eyes. The same determination he felt. The same refusal to let humanity fail. Not without a fight. 4 hours to save Earth's future. 4 hours to find a solution that didn't exist. The countdown had begun. The quarters assigned to the human delegation were beautiful but cold. Crystal walls let in light from outside, making the room glow with soft colors. Jake sat on a bench that looked carved from a single piece of stone and watched the argument unfold. We have to refuse, Lieutenant Sarah Palmer said. She was the security chief, a woman with short blonde hair and a scar across her left cheek. We can't ask our people to do this. Some of them won't recover from it. If we refuse, Earth stays isolated, Ambassador Carter replied. She stood by the window, her back straight, despite the burden she carried. No access to medical technology that could cure cancer. No trade agreements that could feed billions. No protection from hostile species. Is that better? Is losing our dignity better? Sarah shot back. We're talking about stripping naked in front of thousands of aliens. Do you know what that would do to some people? Chen has religious objections. Morrison has a younger sister who was assaulted. She barely leaves her quarters now. What happens if we force her to relive that trauma? After, after, Jake winced. Sarah was right. His sister Katie had joined the fleet 2 years ago, hoping space would help her heal. Instead, she had withdrawn further into herself. If someone told her she had to undress publicly, it would destroy her. Maybe we can negotiate further, Dr. Lisa Ford suggested. She was the ship's medical officer, calm and thoughtful. Explain in more detail why this is harmful to humans. The Caltharians seem logical. Perhaps they'll understand. They don't care about our psychology, Emma said quietly from the corner. She hadn't moved since they entered the room. Hadn't looked up from her tablet. I've read everything written about Caltharian culture. They believe physical form is irrelevant. To them, being modest about your body is like being modest about your height or eye color. They see it as meaningless vanity at best, active deception at worst. Then we're stuck, Captain Brooks said. He rubbed his face tiredly. We can't comply, and we can't refuse. What's the third option? 1. Silence filled the room. Jake looked around at the faces of his crewmates. These were good people, smart people, brave people who had survived the harsh reality of space exploration, but none of them had an answer. There was a precedent, Emma said suddenly. Everyone turned to her. She finally looked up from her tablet, and Jake saw the gears turning behind her eyes. 600 years ago, the Vexorians faced this same problem. They're aquatic, need special suits to survive in oxygen environments. The Caltharians wanted them to remove the suits for the right of clarity. What happened? Jake asked. The Caltharians made an exception, Emma said. They classified the suits as part of the Vexorian body, because removing them meant death. The suits weren't artificial covering. They were survival equipment that became part of the being wearing them. So we need to be in life-threatening danger? Sarah asked. That's the only way they'll let us keep our clothes? Or we need to convince them that our coverings aren't artificial? Emma said slowly. That they're part of us. Somehow. Ambassador Carter moved closer. What if we could create something that technically qualifies as part of our body? Not clothing, but something that becomes us, even temporarily. Emma's words came faster now, her mind working through the problem. The Caltharians don't object to body modifications. Half their species has integrated technology into their crystalline structures. They only object to artificial barriers. You're talking about medical gel, Doctor, Ford said, understanding dawning. The biosynthetic material we use for burn treatment. It bonds with skin cells. Becomes part of the dermal layer during healing. Exactly, Emma said. She stood up, energy returning to her movements. What if we could modify it, make it opaque instead of transparent, apply it to cover what needs covering? It would technically be living tissue once bonded to our skin. Jake felt hope spark in his chest. Would they accept it? I don't know, Emma admitted. But it's a possibility. The gel becomes biologically active once applied. It's not a garment we put on. It's a layer we grow, temporarily. We'd be following the letter of their law while maintaining our boundaries. It's also a lie, Captain Brooks said quietly. We'd be presenting it as natural biology when it's actually technology. Is it a lie? Dr. Ford asked. The gel does become part of human biology. That's how it works. We're just choosing to emphasize certain aspects over others. That's called politics, Ambassador Carter said with a small smile. And it might be our way out. But we need to present it correctly. If the Caltharians think we're trying to deceive them, it will be worse than refusing outright. Jake stood up. An idea was forming. Risky but possible. What if we're honest about it? We tell them we use biogel. Explain exactly how it works. but frame it as a biological capability unique to humans. We're not hiding anything. We're demonstrating that humans can temporarily modify their bodies for situations requiring both transparency and protection. That's actually smart, Sarah said, surprise in her voice. We're not claiming it's natural. We're claiming it's part of human biology because we made it part of human biology. They modified their own bodies with technology. Why can't we? Emma was nodding, her fingers flying over the tablet. It could work. The Keltharians value honesty above all else. If we present this openly, explain our reasoning, acknowledge it's a technological solution but argue it's also a biological one, they might accept it. Might, Ambassador Carter repeated. That's a dangerous word when Earth's future hangs in the balance. Do we have another option? Jake asked. The room fell silent again. They all knew the answer. This was their only chance. Slim as it was. Who presents the idea to Velthon? Dr. Ford asked. Emma took a deep breath. I will. This is my responsibility. I'm the cultural liaison. If it fails, it should be on me. You won't go alone, Jake said immediately. The words came out before he could think about them. I'll go with you. I'll do them. Emma looked at him, surprised. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do, Jake said. He wasn't sure why he felt so strongly about this. Why the thought of her facing the Keltharians alone made his chest tight. They barely knew each other, but something about her determination, her willingness to carry this burden, made him want to stand beside her. If this works, we'll need to demonstrate it anyway. 2 people are better than 1. He's right, Ambassador Carter said. Emma, you handle the cultural argument. Jake, you handle the practical demonstration. Between you, present a united front. Show them humans face challenges together. Emma looked at Jake for a long moment. Something passed between them. An unspoken understanding. They were in this together now, for better or worse. All right, Emma said. Let's do this. Dr. Ford stood up. I'll start modifying the biogel. I'll need at least an hour to get the formula right. It has to be opaque enough to provide coverage but thin enough to register as tissue on their scanners. I'll draft the formal request for audience with Velthon, Ambassador Carter said. Emma, Jake, prepare your presentation. You'll have one chance to make this work. Don't waste it. The group dispersed, each person moving with purpose now. Jake found himself walking beside Emma down the crystal corridor toward the research lab where Dr. Ford worked. Thank you, Emma said quietly, for volunteering to come with me. Don't thank me yet, Jake replied. This might not work. We could make everything worse. Or we could save humanity's future. Emma glanced at him. Why did you volunteer? You don't know me. We've served on the same ship for months and barely talked. Jake considered the question. Why had he spoken up so quickly? I guess because you were willing to do it alone. That seemed wrong. Nobody should have to carry that weight by themselves. Emma stopped walking. They were in an empty section of corridor. Rainbow light shifting across the walls. Most people wouldn't see it that way. Most people would be happy to let someone else take the risk. Then I guess I'm not most people, Jake said. No, Emma agreed. I guess you're not. They stood there for a moment. 2 humans in an alien station, about to attempt something impossible. Jake felt the weight of it, the pressure of Earth's hopes resting on their shoulders, but he also felt something else. Something unexpected. He felt less alone. Come on, Emma said finally. We have work to do. They walked together toward the lab, toward the unknown, toward a gamble that would either save their species or doom it. 3 hours remained before they faced Velthon again. 3 hours to prepare for the most important moment of their lives. High Magistrate Velthon received them in a smaller chamber than before. The room was circular, with walls that seemed to breathe light in slow pulses. 2 other Keltharians stood with him, their crystalline forms reflecting each other like mirrors. Jake felt his heart pounding as he entered. Emma walked beside him. her face calm despite what he knew she must be feeling. Ambassador Carter had stayed behind, giving them authority to speak for all of humanity. It was a calculated risk, showing the Keltharians that Earth trusted its younger generation. "You requested this meeting," Velthon said. His voice filled the chamber without echo. "I assume you have made your decision about the right of clarity." "We have, High Magistrate," Emma said. She held her tablet but didn't look at it. Jake knew she had memorized every word. "We wish to propose a solution that honors both the spirit of your law and the nature of human biology." One of the other Keltharians, a female called Cynthia, shifted forward. "There is no compromise in our law. It has stood unchanged for 3,000 years. We are not asking you to change your law," Jake said. "We're asking you to understand how human biology allows us to fulfill it." Velthon's light pulsed, a sign of interest. "Explain." Emma took a breath and began. "The right of clarity requires removal of artificial coverings. The key word is artificial. Something separate from the body. Something that creates a barrier between the self and others. Correct?" "Correct," Velthon agreed. "Humans have developed medical technology that allows us to temporarily enhance our own biology." Emma continued. "One such technology is biosynthetic gel. It bonds with human skin cells at the molecular level, becoming part of the dermal layer. Once applied, it is living tissue, not artificial covering." Jake pulled out a small device and projected a hologram into the air between them. It showed human skin cells, then showed the gel bonding with them, becoming integrated into the cellular structure. "This is fascinating," Cynthia said, moving closer to examine the projection. "But how is this relevant to the right?" "We propose using modified biogel to satisfy your requirements," Jake said. "The gel would cover areas of our bodies that humans consider private. But because it becomes part of our living tissue, it is not artificial covering. It is a temporary, biological feature." "You claim this gel becomes part of you?" Velthon asked. "Truly part of your body? Not simply attached to it?" "Yes," Emma said. "Our medical officer can provide detailed scans. The gel integrates with our cells, shares our DNA markers, responds to our nervous system. For the time it is bonded to us, it is us." The three Keltharians conferred among themselves in their musical language. Jake watched their lights pulse and shift, trying to read meaning in the patterns. Beside him, Emma stood perfectly still, but he could see tension in her shoulders. "This is clever," the third Keltharian said, speaking for the first time. His voice was deeper than the others. "Perhaps too clever. It sounds like you seek a loophole in our law." "Not a loophole," Emma said firmly. "An application of your law to a species with different biological capabilities. The Vexorians were allowed to keep their suits because removing them meant death. We are not asking for exception based on mortality. We're asking for recognition that humans can modify our own biology in ways other species cannot." "And why should we recognize this?" Velthon asked. "What makes human biological modification different from simply wearing clothes?" Jake stepped forward. "Because it requires vulnerability to use. The biogel bonds with our skin. Removing it is painful, tears away living tissue. Once applied, we cannot simply take it off like a garment. It must be carefully dissolved by our medical team over several hours. We would be committing to this form for the entire ceremony." "You would be locked into this biological state?" Cynthia asked. "Unable to change it easily?" "Yes," Emma confirmed. "Just as you cannot easily change your crystalline structure. For the duration of our time in your sacred spaces, this would be our body." "Emma? Emma? Emma?" Velthon's light dimmed, then brightened. A pattern Jake was beginning to recognize as deep thought. "You make an interesting argument. But I must ask, why do humans need this? Why not simply stand as you are, as every other species has done?" This was the crucial moment. Emma had prepared for this question, but Jake saw her hesitate. How did you explain human psychology to beings who experienced existence completely differently? Because forced exposure causes us psychological harm, Emma said quietly. For humans, the body is not just a vessel. It is tied to our sense of self, our dignity, our mental health. Some humans have experienced violence related to their bodies. Being forced to expose themselves publicly would cause real, lasting trauma. It is not about vanity or deception. It is about survival of the mind. We do not understand this, Cynthia admitted. Our bodies are tools. We feel no shame or pride in them. That is the point, Jake said. Different species are different. The right of clarity asks us to be honest, to show we have nothing to hide. We are being honest right now. We're telling you exactly what we need and why. We're not hiding our use of the biogel. We're explaining it openly, asking you to recognize it as valid within your laws. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the station's systems. Velthon looked at his companions. Then, back at the humans. You would demonstrate this? He asked. You would undergo the rite using this method. Allow us to scan you. Verify that the gel is indeed living tissue? Yes, Emma said without hesitation. And if our scans show it is artificial? If we determine you are attempting deception? Velthon's voice hardened. The penalty would be severe. Humanity would be barred from the Council for a century, marked as dishonest. Jake felt his mouth go dry. They hadn't discussed this possibility in detail. A century was longer than a human lifetime. It would mean everyone involved in this mission would die before Earth got another chance. We understand the risk, Emma said. Her voice stayed steady, but Jake saw her hand tremble slightly. We believe in our proposal. We believe the biogel is a valid biological solution. We are willing to stake humanity's future on it. Velthon moved closer, his massive crystalline form towering over them. Light refracted through his body, casting rainbow shadows across their faces. You have courage, he said. Both of you. To stand here, knowing the consequences of failure, and still move forward. That is admirable. He paused, and Jake could have sworn he saw approval in those alien features. Very well. We will allow the demonstration. 1 hour from now, you will undergo the rite of clarity using your biogel before the full Galactic Council. Our most advanced medical scanners will analyze the gel's composition. If it registers as living human tissue, integrated with your biology, we will accept your proposal. If it registers as artificial covering, your species will be banned from this council for 100 years. We accept these terms, Emma said. Then prepare yourselves, Velthon said. And may your biology prove as adaptable as you claim. The Keltharians left the chamber, their musical footsteps fading into silence. Jake and Emma stood alone in the pulsing light. We did it, Jake said quietly. We convinced them to let us try. We convinced them to let us risk everything, Emma corrected. She turned to him, and he saw fear in her eyes for the first time. What if the scanners reject the gel? What if we're wrong about how it registers? We just gambled away humanity's future on a theory. It's more than a theory, Jake said. Dr. Ford has been testing it. The gel does integrate with human cells. The scans will show that. You sound very confident. I'm terrified, Jake admitted. But I believe in you. You found this solution. Your research, your understanding of both cultures. If anyone can bridge this gap, it's you. Emma looked at him for a long moment. Why are you really doing this? Standing with me, volunteering for the demonstration. You could have stayed safe on the ship. Jake considered lying, giving her some noble reason about duty or humanity. But she deserved honesty. Especially now. Because watching you prepare to do this alone made me angry, he said. Angry that someone so smart and brave would have to carry this burden by herself. angry that the weight of our entire species would rest on your shoulders while others hid behind you. So I decided to stand where I could be useful. Maybe that's selfish. Maybe I just didn't want to feel like a coward. Emma's eyes softened. That's not selfish. That's exactly what humanity should be. People standing together, when it matters most. Then let's show the galaxy what humans can do, Jake said. They walked together toward the medical bay where Dr. Ford waited with the modified biogel. Jake's hands were steady, but his mind raced with possibilities. In 1 hour, they would stand before the most powerful beings in the known universe. They would be scanned, analyzed, judged, and humanity's fate would be decided by whether alien technology could recognize a medical gel as living tissue. Jake, Emma said as they walked. Yeah? Thank you for not letting me do this alone. He looked at her and managed a small smile. Thank you for finding a way forward when there didn't seem to be one. They reached the medical bay. Dr. Ford looked up from her equipment. Her face serious. The gel is ready, she said. I've tested it 3 times. It bonds perfectly. Reads as human tissue on our scanners. But I don't know if it will pass Keltharian analysis. Their technology is more advanced than ours. It will work, Emma said with more confidence than Jake felt she actually had. It has to. Then let's begin, Dr. Ford said. We have 45 minutes to apply the gel and get you to the council chamber. Take off your uniforms. This is going to feel strange. Jake and Emma looked at each other, then nodded. They were committed now. For better or worse. The next hour would determine everything. The biogel felt cold when it first touched Jake's skin. Dr. Ford applied it carefully, using a specialized applicator that spread the material in thin, even layers. Within seconds, the cold sensation faded, replaced by warmth as the gel bonded with his cells. How does it feel? Dr. Ford asked, monitoring the readouts on her scanner. Weird, Jake admitted. Like wearing a second skin. I can feel it. But it also feels like part of me. That's exactly right, Dr. Ford said. The gel is integrating with your dermal layer. Your nervous system is accepting it as natural tissue. In about 5 more minutes, your body won't be able to distinguish between the gel and your actual skin. Across the medical bay, Emma stood as another technician applied gel to her. She caught Jake's eye and gave him a small, nervous smile. The gel covered them from neck to mid-thigh, opaque and skin-toned, looking almost like simple bodysuits. But Jake could feel it wasn't clothing. It was warm, flexible, and most importantly, it felt alive. The bond is complete, Dr. Ford announced, checking her instruments one last time. The gel is now part of your biology. It shares your body temperature, responds to your movements, even shows your pulse if you look closely. On every human scanner I have, you two register as normal humans with slightly thicker skin. That's all. 2. And on Keltharian scanners? Emma asked. That's what we're about to find out, Dr. Ford said quietly. Ambassador Carter entered the medical bay, already dressed in formal attire. She looked at Jake and Emma, her expression unreadable. How do you feel? She asked. Ready, Emma said. Terrified, Jake added honestly. The ambassador's stern face softened slightly. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Just remember what you're doing this for. Not for me, not for the mission. For every human who will benefit from galactic membership. For every child who won't die from a disease we could cure with alien medical technology. For every family that won't starve because we gained access to better resources. No pressure then, Jake muttered. Ambassador Carter almost smiled. The entire council is assembled. Over 300 species, each with multiple representatives. They're waiting. Velthon has explained your proposal. Some are curious. Others are skeptical. Most are simply interested to see what humans will do. Any advice? Emma asked. Stand tall. Speak clearly. Show no shame or hesitation. You are representing humanity's ability to adapt, to find creative solutions to impossible problems. Make them see that quality in you. She gestured toward the door. It's time. They walked through the crystal corridors of the station. Their footsteps echoed softly, joined by the clicks of Ambassador Carter's formal shoes. Jake found his hand brushing against Emma's as they walked, and she didn't pull away. The small contact helped, grounding him in the moment. The council chamber doors were massive, 30 feet tall, and made from some material that shifted colors as they approached. 2 Keltharian guards stood at attention, their crystalline forms perfectly still. Ambassador Helen Carter and representatives of Earth, the ambassador announced formally. We are here for the right of clarity. The doors swung open silently. Jake's breath caught. The chamber was spherical, enormous beyond comprehension. Beings floated, sat, stood, or existed in forms Jake couldn't name. The walls were transparent, showing the stars beyond. In the center was a raised platform, and on that platform stood High Magistrate Velthon, beside scanning equipment that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. Welcome, Velthon's voice echoed through the chamber, translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. Earth has proposed an alternative interpretation of the right of clarity. We shall now verify if this interpretation has merit. Jake and Emma walked forward together, their steps synchronized. Every eye, sensor, and consciousness in the chamber focused on them. Jake had never felt so exposed, even though the biogel covered him. The weight of attention from hundreds of alien species pressed down like physical force. They climbed the steps to the platform. Up close, the scanning equipment was beautiful. Crystalline structures that hummed with energy. Velthon gestured for them to stand in the center, beneath a web of light that descended from above. The scans will take approximately 3 minutes, Velthon announced. During this time, you will remain still. Our technology will analyze every molecule of your bodies, determining what is natural biology and what is artificial addition. We understand, Emma said. Her voice was steady, projecting across the vast chamber. The light touched them, and Jake felt warmth spread through his body. It wasn't painful, but he could sense something examining him, reading him at a level deeper than sight. Beside him, Emma stood perfectly still, her chin raised, her expression calm. Jake forced himself to breathe normally. If the gel didn't pass this test, everything ended. Earth would lose its chance at the Council for 100 years. Every human on this station would return home in failure. Worse, they would be known as the species that tried to cheat, to deceive the most sacred law of the Keltharians. The 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. Finally, the light faded. Velthon examined the results on a display that only he could see clearly. His light pulsed in patterns. Jake couldn't read. The other Keltharians leaned forward, waiting for the verdict. The entire council chamber held its collective breath. The analysis is complete, Velthon said. He looked at Jake and Emma, and for a moment, Jake thought he saw something almost like respect in those alien features. The substance covering these humans registers as living tissue. It shares their DNA markers, integrates with their cellular structure, responds to their nervous system impulses. By every measure our technology can assess, this biogel has become part of their bodies. Relief flooded through Jake so intensely he nearly stumbled. Beside him, Emma's hand found his and squeezed hard. However, Velthon continued, and Jake's relief turned to ice. This council must now decide if this satisfies the spirit of our law, not merely its letter. The right of clarity exists to ensure honesty and transparency. Have these humans demonstrated honesty, or have they found a clever way to avoid our requirements? Our requirements. A being that looked like floating liquid spoke first, its voice like water over stones. They have been transparent about their methods. They explained the biogel openly, hid nothing about its nature. That is honesty. But they have covered themselves. a reptilian creature hissed. The purpose of the rite is to remove all barriers. They have replaced one barrier with another. They replaced an artificial barrier with a biological one, Cynthia said, surprising Jake. There is precedent for this. We allowed the Vexorians to keep their suits when removal meant death. Should we not also allow humans to maintain their psychological well-being? The Vexorians faced physical death, the reptilian argued. These humans face only discomfort. Emma stepped forward, her voice ringing across the chamber. With respect, it is not merely discomfort. Humans who are forcibly exposed can develop lasting psychological trauma. Our minds can break as surely as bodies. Is the death of mental health less important than the death of physical form? The chamber erupted in discussion. Hundreds of species debating in their own languages. Jake watched as alliances formed and dissolved, as beings argued passionately for and against humanity's proposal. Ambassador Carter appeared at the edge of the platform, watching but not interfering. This was something the council had to decide for themselves. After what felt like an eternity, Velthon raised his hands, and silence fell. This decision requires wisdom beyond tradition, he said slowly. For 3,000 years, the rite of clarity has been performed one way. Every species has stood before us, in their natural form, but perhaps we have confused natural with unchanging. These humans have shown us something new. They have the ability to modify their biology to meet challenges. That is natural for them, even if it is not natural for us. He turned to face the full council. I propose we recognize human biogel as a valid biological feature, not because it allows them to avoid our law, but because it demonstrates the very qualities we seek: adaptation, honesty, and the courage to stand before us and explain their nature without shame. And if other species claim similar needs, the reptilian asked, do we change our sacred law for every being that asks? We do not change the law, Velthon said. We recognize that the law can be fulfilled in different ways by different species. The rite demands removal of artificial barriers. These humans have removed their artificial barriers and replaced them with biological ones. They have satisfied the requirement. Node. He looked at Jake and Emma. You have shown courage in coming here. You have shown creativity in finding a solution. You have shown honesty in explaining your methods. These are the qualities the Galactic Council values. Therefore, I declare the rite of clarity complete. Earth's representatives have satisfied our requirements. The chamber exploded with sound. Some species cheered in their own ways. Others remained silent. And a few clearly disagreed. But the decision was made. Jake felt his knees go weak. Emma grabbed his arm, steadying him, and he realized she was shaking too. They had done it. Against impossible odds, with everything at stake, they had found a way through. Well done, Velthon said quietly. Meant only for them. You have given the council much to think about. Perhaps it is time we remembered that unity does not require uniformity. As they descended from the platform, Jake heard the whispers starting. Humans, the species that redefined Keltharian law, the ones who found the impossible solution. Ambassador Carter met them at the bottom, and for the first time since Jake had known her, she was smiling. You did it, she said simply. Both of you. You saved us all. Emma looked at Jake, her eyes bright with unshed tears. We did it together. That's what humans do, Jake replied. We stand together when it matters. And in a chamber filled with hundreds of alien species, two humans stood side by side, having changed the galaxy through courage, creativity, and the simple act of refusing to face the impossible alone. The ceremony continued for another 6 hours after the rite of clarity was completed. Jake and Emma stood through speeches in languages they couldn't understand, watched rituals from cultures that defied human comprehension, and witnessed Earth's official acceptance into the Galactic Council. The biogel remained bonded to their skin throughout. a constant reminder of what they had accomplished. When it was finally over, when the last delegate had offered their species' version of congratulations, Jake and Emma returned to the medical bay. Dr. Ford was waiting with the dissolution solution that would safely remove the gel. "This is going to take a few hours," she warned. "The bond is strong. We have to break it down slowly to avoid damaging your actual skin." "Take all the time you need," Emma said, sitting on the examination table. "I'm not going anywhere." Jake took the table next to hers. Now that the adrenaline was fading, exhaustion crashed over him like a wave. His body ached from standing so long. His mind felt fuzzy from the intensity of what they had experienced. "How are you holding up?" he asked Emma. "I'm not sure yet," she admitted. "Part of me still can't believe it worked. We took such a huge risk." But it paid off," Jake said. "Earth is part of the Council now. Future generations will benefit from what we did today." "What we did," Emma repeated softly. She looked at him, and something in her expression made his heart beat faster. "You keep saying that. We. But you didn't have to be part of this. You could have stayed safe on the ship." "So could you," Jake pointed out. "It was my job. I'm the cultural liaison. This was literally what I signed up for. And I'm part of the crew," Jake said. "When someone on my crew is facing something alone, I stand with them. That's what we do." Dr. Ford began applying the dissolution solution, working carefully. The warmth of the gel began to fade, replaced by a tingling sensation as the bond broke down. Jake watched the process on the monitor, seeing the molecular structure separate from his cells. "You're going to be famous, you know, Doctor," Ford said as she worked. "Both of you. The humans who changed Keltharian law. The first beings in 3,000 years to complete the rite in a new way." "I don't want to be famous," Emma said. "I just wanted Earth to succeed." "Too late for that," Dr. Ford replied with a smile. "Ambassador Carter told me the Council is already drafting a new provision. They're calling it the Humanity Clause. It will allow member species to request cultural accommodations when traditions conflict with their biological or psychological needs, as long as they demonstrate honesty and good faith." Jake felt the weight of that settle over him. They hadn't just saved Earth's application. They had changed how the entire Galactic Council approached cultural differences. "That's a lot to process," he said quietly. "You have time," Dr. Ford assured him. "The dissolution is only about 20% complete. You two are stuck here for at least 3 more hours." She left to check on some equipment, leaving Jake and Emma alone in the medical bay. The silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. They had been through too much together for awkwardness. "Can I ask you something?" Emma said finally. "Sure. Why did you really volunteer?" "The truth this time. Not the diplomatic answer you gave me before." Jake thought about lying, about giving her something simple and clean. But she deserved honesty, especially after everything. "Because I watched you prepare to face this alone, and it made me angry," he said. "Angry that someone so brilliant and brave would have to carry that weight while others hid. Angry that Earth's future would rest on your shoulders. And maybe angry at myself for being the kind of person who would usually stay safe while someone else took the risk." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "You changed something in me. Made me want to be the kind of person who stands up when it matters. So I guess I volunteered for me as much as for you." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "That's the most honest thing anyone has ever said to me. You asked for the truth. I did." She smiled, and it reached her eyes this time. "Thank you for being that person. The one who stands up. I couldn't have done this without you." "You could have," Jake said. "You're stronger than you think. But I'm glad you didn't have to." The hours passed slowly as the gel dissolved. They talked about everything and nothing. About Earth. About their families. About why they had joined the space fleet. Jake learned that Emma had a younger brother who dreamed of being a pilot. Emma learned that Jake's sister Katie was slowly starting to heal, finding her own strength. "I want to tell her about this," Jake said. "About what we did today. Not the fame part, but the part where scared people can still do brave things. Where facing impossible situations doesn't mean you have to face them alone. That's a good message, Emma agreed. Finally, Dr. Ford returned and ran the final scans. All clear. The gel is completely dissolved. Your skin might be a bit sensitive for the next day or two, but you're both fine. They stood up, feeling oddly light without the biogel. Jake looked at his hands, his arms, seeing only his normal skin. It was strange how quickly he had gotten used to the gel being part of him. What happens now? Emma asked. Now you get some rest, Dr. Ford said. The ship departs in 12 hours. You both need sleep. But neither of them moved toward the door. I should let you rest, Jake said. I'm not tired, Emma replied. Too much in my head. Want to talk about it? Actually, I just want to not think for a while. Want to watch the stars from the observation deck? They made their way to the deck together, finding it blessedly empty. Through the transparent walls, the Keltharian homeworld turned slowly, its crystal cities catching the light of 3 suns. Beyond it, stars stretched into infinity. It's beautiful, Emma said softly. It is, Jake agreed, though he found himself looking at her more than the view. She caught him looking and raised an eyebrow. What? Just thinking about how much has changed in one day. This morning, we barely knew each other. Now we've changed galactic law together. That's one way to get to know someone, Emma said with a laugh. Skip all the small talk and go straight to the life-altering decisions. Would you want to do the small talk now? Start from the beginning? Emma considered this. Maybe we don't need to go backward. Maybe we just keep moving forward from here. I'd like that, Jake said. They stood together, watching the alien world turn beneath them. In a few hours, they would return to the ship, return to their regular duties. But nothing would be truly regular again. They had proven something today. Not just to the Galactic Council but to themselves. Humans could adapt. Humans could find creative solutions to impossible problems. Humans could honor others' traditions, while staying true to their own values. And most importantly, humans could face the unknown together, standing side by side when it mattered most. Jake? Emma said quietly. Yeah? Thank you for not letting me do this alone. I keep saying it, but I mean it. You didn't have to stand with me, but you chose to. That meant everything. You would have done the same for me, Jake said. That's who you are. Maybe, Emma smiled. But you did it first. 3 months later, the Galactic Council formally adopted the Humanity Clause. It was smaller news than Earth's acceptance into the Council, but it mattered. The clause allowed any species to request cultural accommodations when fundamental traditions conflicted with their biological or psychological needs, provided they could demonstrate honesty and good faith in their approach. 12 species invoked the clause within the first month. Each time, they cited humanity's example, the way Jake and Emma had stood before the council, with courage and creativity. Emma was promoted to senior cultural liaison, tasked with helping new species navigate the complex waters of galactic diplomacy. Jake requested transfer to her department, finding that his tactical training translated surprisingly well to diplomatic problem-solving. They worked together on their first major assignment, mediating a dispute between 2 aquatic species that had been frozen in stalemate for decades. Using the same approach they had taken with the Keltharians, they found a creative solution that satisfied both sides while compromising neither. We make a good team, Emma said as they submitted their final report. We do, Jake agreed. It wasn't romantic. Not yet. Maybe it would never be. But they had something deeper than romance. Something forged in the crystal chambers of an alien station. When they stood together against impossible odds, they had trust, respect, and the knowledge that when things got difficult, they could count on each other. That was enough. That was everything. On Earth, Jake's sister Katie read about the Humanity Clause and the 2 people who had inspired it. She didn't know one of them was her brother. Not yet. But she read their story and felt something shift inside her. If scared people could still do brave things, if facing impossible situations didn't mean facing them alone, Maybe there was hope for her too. She signed up for a support group the next day. It was a small step, but it was a step forward. Just like the Humanity Clause was a small change in galactic law. But it represented something much larger. The universe was vast and filled with differences. But those differences didn't have to divide. With creativity, honesty, and the willingness to stand together, even the most fundamental conflicts could find resolution. Jake and Emma had proven that on a crystal station orbiting an alien world. They had defied tradition, not by breaking it, but by showing how it could evolve. They had changed the galaxy by refusing to change who they were, and in doing so, they had shown humanity at its best. Adaptive, creative, brave, and unwilling to let anyone face the darkness alone. That was the real gift they gave the Galactic Council. Not a loophole in ancient law, but a reminder that unity didn't require uniformity. That respect could coexist with differences. That the strongest bonds were formed not in agreement, but in standing together despite disagreement. The stars turned above them, indifferent and eternal. But somewhere in that vast darkness, two humans had left their mark, not through conquest or force, but through compassion and courage, and the galaxy was better for it.